to our lovely space. Great, awesome. Welcome. You're at O.N.S. At 71 Green. This is our flagship store here in New York. We are a clothing brand that's vertically integrated. We're based here in the city. We make wonderful clothes, but outside of making wonderful clothes, we also aim to be a platform for what we see as the global creative class. So we try to give creatives a space to work and to share their work. You can see that in this store. Back in the cafe, we have some great artwork and a lovely mural. We have photography around the walls. There's a really cool collaboration over here. Tonight, you're here to see the O.N.S. Exchange, which is a panel series. This is the third one of the year. The topic is travel and discovery. We have the lovely Zach Weiss leading the conversation, and he will introduce you to the rest of our guests. So I hope you enjoy.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? So to my left, I have to get used to this. We have Pavia Rosati of Fathom. If you want to tell us a little bit about Fathom.
I would like to, and first of all, I just want to say thank you to O.N.S. for having this. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you guys all for coming out on what turned out to be a really nice day. So nice. Fathom is an editorial travel website that covers the world through a mix of personal stories and really tightly edited guides. We don't cover everything, we only cover things that are really special. And what we really aim to do is to turn inspiration into action. So not only to tell you about a fantastic island off the coast of Rio, but actually tell you this is the ferry you take to get there and how to do it. We also have a travel agency, not that I'm pitching Fathom, I'm just letting you know.
It's a cool website.
As sort of, thank you. Listen, that's high praise coming from you. Again, because we just live to get people traveling as much as possible.
Very good. And we have Lisle down here. I feel like it's like a date show. Lisle Richards, a hospitality guru and one of my friends.
I like long walks on the beach. My name's Lisle Richards. Excuse my incredibly deep voice. I have a bit of a cold today, but I own a restaurant called The Wayfarer in Midtown. It's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner 3-meal period restaurant. I own a nightclub called Gilded Lily, which is in the Meatpacking District, and then I have an immersive, like an events and performance space in partnership with Pepsi called Cola House, and then we have a few other concepts that are under development in health and wellness and in travel. So yeah, that's what we do. That's what I do, and I travel obsessively.
I was going to add, you're an obsessive traveler.
And I'm also obsessed with travel. I travel probably 2 weeks a month.
That goes without saying without everybody here. I mean, all travelers. And then we have Molly from Hotel Life.
Hi, I'm Molly from Hotel Life. We are a digital platform for the most interesting hotels that we like to think around the world for the creative traveler.
And then Joseph. No, that was perfectly short. And then Joseph from W Hotels.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Joe. I'm the marketing manager at W Times Square. I believe you all know of W Hotels, but we are what I like to think of as one of the first lifestyle hospitality brands, pioneering in fashion design, music, and fitness, and hotels.
If there's a W there, it's cool. Anywhere you go. And then we have Alex from probably the coolest name company here, Surf Yoga Beer.
Hi guys, I'm Alex. I'm the operations manager at Surf Yoga Beer, and we lead fitness adventures around the world. So we do everything from going on day trips to the Rockaways, or taking people to Mexico for a week and boxing on the beach, or going to Costa Rica and doing obstacle course adventures. So that's just a little bit about our company.
And is the name Surf Yoga Beer because that's the agenda of the trip?
Everything is included on the trips. Yeah, surfing kind of represents like the fitness aspect of things. The yoga represents like winding down and meditating and taking in all of that. And then the beer is just having fun and enjoying life. You don't have to drink beer, but drinking is included on all the trips.
I'll be there for the beer. So I wanted to start off, I mean, you guys have dealt with plenty of clients and things like that. There's this obsession with feeling like a local whenever you travel. You don't want to deal with Travelocity guides or, the basic things that everybody's looking at. And I want to know if there's a secret to, living like a local wherever you're going. If there's any resource that you consult other than your own. Feel free to share it. Don't keep it a secret.
Okay,
Alex?
I'll answer. I like to travel when I travel by myself. I always like to travel like a local. When I went to Paris with a friend, we just kind of bought a book and like walked around the city rather than going to every site like with the tourist groups. But with my company, we really like to form relationships with people, like local people in the places that we go. And that helps a lot when we go back to locations because our chef, he's Mexican, so he can speak the local language and help us in that way. And then, yeah, just getting to know like the local culture. And I think that helps a lot. And participating in the things that they do rather than just going to like all the local sites that all the tourists, like the tourist traps, I guess.
This might sound like a total pitch, but I promise it's not. At W, we have this role called the insider. So whenever I'm traveling to a country where there's a W or a city where there's a W, I'll reach out to this person, and they're basically like your local best friend, and they'll kind of like tap you into everything cool, everything locals only. So that's always a great resource to have.
I'd used one of them in Colombia, or no, it was in Mexico City, and they were really cool. They're very helpful.
I think don't be afraid to strike up a conversation when you're traveling. So sit at the bar, meet the bartenders. If you're at a restaurant that you identify with and you like, and it's the right vibe, they're going to point you in the right direction if you just ask.
I do the same, but with sneaker shops. I go to this. Yeah, I mean it's a local shops, and then I enjoy shopping. Like if it's Spain, I go to the brand that's like based in Spain that started in Spain, right?
Standout moments. You can share standout experiences. Maybe.
I can't tell you the name of the store in Madrid that I went to that I was obsessed with, and I talked to the guys for like an hour about where do I go in Madrid? What are the neighborhoods? It was day one. Day one, I don't do anything. There's nothing touristy that I do other than just wander around the city, and then I find out where the local, like, actual stores are that are based there, and then I go in and I strike up a conversation with the people that are selling me the clothes, and they always know because they're always the coolest. So that's where I get my info.
It's hard to go last when everybody's already given such great advice here. No, that's totally fine. It's like we're playing the game of telephone. One of the interesting things that's happened is that I've noticed in the last 10 years of travel information and disseminating is this pressure to do the right thing when you travel. I have to take the photo, I have to do the thing, I have to see the thing. I think the best way to feel like a local is to throw all that shit out the window and to just trust your gut, right? I mean, I'm with Molly. I'm gonna go to a bar and I'm gonna strike up a conversation with a bartender. And one of the nicest travel experiences I had, I ended up on a ridiculously disgusting rainy night. My shoes were soaked in Hong Kong at Yardbird. And everybody knows, Yardbird's awesome. It was my last night on the end of a 10-day trip, and I was by myself in Asia, and there were good and bad things about the trip, but these bartenders found me a seat at the end of the bar. It was a packed night, and the bartenders were basically like, we're gonna take care of you all night long. We're just gonna keep bringing you good food, and we're gonna keep telling you what's cool and where to go. And I was like, this is pretty nice. And that, for you, it's going to the sneaker store. I'm such a big believer in just following your nose and looking at the things that you think are really good. And as much as this is what I do for a living, the number of times I'm going to Oman on Sunday, I haven't done a ton of research. I kind of love showing up in a place without any research, without knowing what I'm doing. I'm just gonna say, you know what? Let me just discover it. Let me find it. Because the problem, and I say this as somebody who's in the business of giving you travel research so you're prepared before you go. I know.
Don't read it.
But I'm also a professional traveler, right? Like, I know how to do this. I feel really comfortable getting on the ground someplace, knowing nothing, and saying, I'm going to follow my nose, I'm going to follow my gut, because that is why I run a website where we do this stuff. And just absolving yourself, I'm Catholic, if anyone else is Catholic, I absolve you of all guilt in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit of what you should do wherever you go. Do what you want to do what feels fun. Travel should be about discovery, and discovery isn't on the to-do list that you landed with at the airport.
Totally agree with that. I always reserve like one day to just kind of like wander and figure it out. At least you get over jet lag that way because you won't be able to really comprehend a map at that point, so just wander. Anyways, you're a very talented connector. You talk to everybody. If you strike up a conversation, you learn a lot. Have you ever had a situation where you were pegged down as being an American, and has that been prohibitive for you? We don't all have to answer. If we have some, really outstanding thoughts, feel free to share.
Yes, I was definitely pegged as an American woman when I was in Syria in 2009, and I got in a taxi, and it was just me with this Syrian dude, and my Arabic is really limited to some curse words, and his English is not, and I'm not in a veil, and it was, so everybody's kind of got, I don't know if everybody has preconceived notions. It could have been a moment that was really fraught. But instead, we communicated with sign language, which gets you incredibly far in a foreign country. I didn't try to speak English to him and want him to understand what I was saying. We just kind of smiled and spoke in sign language, and he was really excited about the prospect of Hillary Clinton being the Secretary of State at the time. So we somehow communicated Coca-Cola and Hillary Clinton. And I swear to God, wordlessly had this incredibly meaningful exchange in a moment that could have been fraught with just weirdness. And I got out of the cab and I was like, that was one of the nicest travel experiences I've ever had. And I can't say that was I was one of the nicest taxi riders he ever had, but it was real. When you're having a nice exchange with someone.
You remember it.
Yeah.
My God. Anybody, Lyle, please.
I'm about as American as they look. So I can't go anywhere.
Some Euro qualities, too.
I'm just corn-fed. So I do have to say in Tokyo, and then I went out to kind of the
You're probably a movie star in Tokyo.
It's the weirdest experience.
They probably follow you around.
But they asked to touch me is what happens. They end up going like this because the freckles is like a thing for them. So, but it's really incredible. I don't know who said but there is an outpouring of love that happens there, and there is some form of reverence for being unique, which I think is really nice. That's actually not what I was going to share about, but that was a clear indication of being a tourist, and I cannot blend in there. But I traveled to Cuba a lot, and that is a very. I traveled when Obama opened it up, and I also traveled when Trump did his latest edict. And there was a very different, it's pertinent to discuss because there's a very different concept of what an American is now than there was, and there's like a palpable excitement because it's a country that's been embargoed for 70 years, so the concept of opening up to American trade is a very different concept. And then for him to propose, he actually hasn't done anything. You can still just get on a flight at JFK and arrive in Cuba in 3 hours. But the concept of closing it, really harmed them. So for me, it's about wanting to learn about what their cultural mores is, right? Like I don't ever want to arrive as an American and say, I'm an American, this is what I want, right? I always try to arrive in a country and say, I'm an American, what do you want to tell me about your country? And what do you want to tell me about your experience with America? Because everyone has an experience with America because we're such a behemoth. So everyone has an opinion, And then immediately I say, I didn't vote for Trump. That's the next
I feel like that's a big disclaimer for a lot of people.
Yeah. No me gusta Trump is what I say in Cuba whenever I travel there. But yeah. I just, I love it. It's a country. It's full of discovery. It's for me. It's like the second you put an expectation on something is the second you destroy discovery, right? Because a discovery is something that's like unexpected, right? So the second you expect it is the like. I don't know. It's got. It does have an authentic experience too. There's not a Starbucks and a Gap on every corner, and there is an incredible sense of hope, and there is like layered history there that hasn't been like whitewashed by like some form of imperialism. I'm not saying American, but and it's untouched, right? You go into the hinterlands, and they're like it hasn't been touched in 70 years. So. It's an incredible experience for an American where like you're used to going to the Londons and the Parises of the world where like it's built for you. This is not built for you, and there's it's a real honest experience. Sometimes it's not the most delicious or easy, or it's not easy. It's not an easy trip, but it is an authentic. Like I search for real, like that's what I do on a daily basis in whatever I'm doing. And Cuba's real. Havana's definitely real.
Has anybody else done Cuba? I'd like to maybe dive into that a little more. Not yet. Pavia.
Boxing is major in Cuba. They love boxing.
We do trips there. I just haven't personally been.
Yeah.
I like see a surf yoga beer happening there.
But 100%, by the way. We can talk. We'll set it up.
Yeah,
She
can
plan
you
it.
tell us a little more about Cuba and how that plays out for the average visitor? I think it's something we're all sort of curious about, especially now.
Cuba is. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. I went to Cuba just on a whim. A friend was like, "I'm going for a gallery opening. You guys want to come?" So literally on a Sunday, we booked tickets for a Wednesday, and it couldn't have been easier. It really couldn't have been easier. You show up at Newark Airport, and they're like, "You want to buy a visa? Here." No, you check in for your flight, you buy the visa, it's all done. Anybody who tells you it's more complicated, it isn't. The hotel scene is pretty bad in Cuba. The hotel scene is really bad, and we stayed at like the super swank luxury place, which is so expensive and so bad. And they know it. Like they're like, we've been jacking up. I got in a conversation with the chef. He's like, we've jacked up the prices since we opened up, and we can't support this. Like we shouldn't be charging $500 a night because we're delivering $200 a night service. So it's going to crash soon. But thank you for your check in the meantime. The Kempinski, which is the luxury hotel that just opened up, I toured it. You can't book it with an American credit card. I'm married to an Englishman, so we could stay there if we wanted to. And you got to skirt around some things. But do you know what the nicest part of being in Cuba was? Nobody's walking around on their goddamn cell phones all the time. And it is like people, you don't go to a restaurant and everybody's on their, that was actually one of the biggest cultural differences. In addition to no Western brands. The brands that are there, there's a couple of Italian brands.
Chinese.
I don't know the Chinese brands, so you know those.
There's Chinese, German, and Russian just because of the trade that they're
Yeah. And the sort of stylish ones. It's like a Benetton, which, I mean, my husband was like, I remember when the Benetton opened here. I came here in the 80s, and the Benetton, that was a big deal. And there's a Kiko, they make cute Italian clothes. But I swear to God, the nicest thing was like, nobody was walking around like this. Everybody was like, oh, hi.
Present.
People had conversations at the dinner table. They weren't texting somebody they weren't at the dinner table with. And it's just, I don't mean to sound like Sister Mary Pavia, get off your machines. But it was just really nice because if part of traveling is being real is also being in a place as opposed to being distracted by whatever's happening on your Twitter feed and your Instagram on the other side of the world.
Love that. Yeah, let's send it down. I also kind of want to let you guys show off a little bit. What are some of your amazing off-the-beaten excursions that you've had lately or in your travel career? I'm sure you have many, but if you could highlight one for all of us to kind of get away with you on briefly.
I was actually just talking about how magical the Bahamas is, and when you get out of the big islands and the big, Nassau and all this, it's incredible. There's, no cell phone service. There's one restaurant on the island. People are so excited to see you, but it's not been it hasn't been discovered as an it destination. It's not glamorous, and that's kind of the beauty of it. You don't wear shoes the whole time that you're there for a whole week, and it's great. That is truly off the grid.
Yeah, when I was growing up,
W Times Square.
W Times Square. Joe. When I was growing up, my dad used to take us to the national parks a lot, and I hated it. And now that I live in New York City and I've grown up a little bit, I absolutely love it. So especially in Utah, Zion and Arches National Parks are some of the most beautiful places, I think, in the U.S. I also love Costa Rica. The west coast of Costa Rica is just absolutely beautiful. Just amazing experiences there, beautiful beaches, and you can really just get away from it all.
There's a theme of being unplugged. I feel it.
So leading off that, Costa Rica, I was there in January, and we got off the plane, and I was with my team. We rented a pickup truck, sat in the back, and drove 3 hours to the place we were staying. About one of those hours was on an actual paved road, and the other 2 hours was in the dark on dirt roads. Just not knowing what we were going to see on the way there. And yeah, we were just surfing the whole time. We had an obstacle course in the woods that the family who owned the property built. So we were jumping over logs and handmade rails and climbing up this like cliff in the forest. Like it was wild, but definitely a way to unplug. And we encourage that on our trips a lot because we always have a photographer that comes, but they're very much blended in with the entire team. And so there's really no need to have your phone. So it's like the photographer's there if you want the photos, if you want the footage. It's, you know, a lot for our marketing as well, but you don't need your phone taking pictures the entire time, which I think is like a relief for some people because they don't want to have to do that. Yeah, you can't really hold your phone when you're jumping over logs, so it's kind of perfect.
Let's hear from live.
Cuba. No. Well, Cuba, I mean, it's untouched, and so to go horseback riding or cave spelunking or swimming in the sea or all of that stuff I've done.
I want to hear some like death-defying.
I went into this. Okay, fine. I have one of those.
Get
stories.
weird for us.
Great. And no, there's this place called Viñales, which is out to the west, and it's like this. It's those rock formations that you see in like Malaysia, where like it's been pushed up through the earth, right? So it's not something that like that. It's not a normal rock formation, and it's got these like crazy wild vines, and everywhere is like farmland. And so you like take a horse kind of through farmland, and it's untouched, and they don't use pesticides, and it's just farms, and it's beautiful and it's green. And then they're like, we're gonna go climbing, and we're like, okay, perfect. So then we go climbing, and they're like, and now we're gonna go into this hole. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna sign on for this. And they were like, no, it's totally fine. We're gonna go swimming. And I was like, oh, great. And I kind of expected it to be like, just like a, you know, like, I don't know, it's a Disneyland version. So usually there's like, you know, there's a rock with like music playing in it. Like that's just in my head as an American, like what's gonna happen, right? And that was like so not what the experience was, because it was like, there was like because there's no laws that like you can't sue anyone in Cuba. It's Cuba. Like who cares? So there was literally like underground like ladders that like should have been a full bridge with like no, and they could have fallen. And then I swam, and I was like expecting, and they were like, okay, we're here, and I was like, what's here? And they're like, we're literally in the center of the mountain. But in that moment, there was like something really spiritual, because it really was. I didn't go to take a picture. I went to like be in the middle of the mountain where the water comes up out of the earth, you know. And it was just like this really kind of moment where I was like, oh, this is actually like what I came here. This is where I traveled 3 hours and slept in like a random bed for, because I'm like in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the mountain. So, but I was like, I'm definitely gonna die. I do have a video that I can show you, because I did take out my phone because I couldn't fucking unplug. It was not good for Instagram because you couldn't see anything other than the guy speaking in Spanish. That's literally the whole video. Yeah.
Pavia?
Off the beaten path, I think Nicaragua. And one of the nicest things about Nicaragua is, you mentioned this, no Western brands. It is just so nice to be someplace that you don't see a McDonald's or a Starbucks or anything like that. And then the remote corner of northwest Argentina, it's called Salta. That's probably we were driving in, and we would just pull over and be like, I'm sorry, how is this mountain growing diagonally? It was just, everything was so beautiful and weird and cool. And again, it was just like, I don't know, there's something so nice. We keep talking about being unplugged because I think we just feel this pressure to always be on and on and on. And I know when I feel overwhelmed by nature, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, that's what God is. That's what God is about. And that's not Apple. That's not Google, that's not Apple. That's just beauty. And that's just peaceful.
Very profound. I love it. Well, I'm going to make this unprofound. We're at a clothing store. Everybody has like their perfect flight outfit. I would love to close by knowing, on a really high note, what do we wear for a flight? And how do you pack efficiently? These are true tips for everybody. I have like my favorite, these are my pants that I wear traveling. I wear them all the time.
Black pants, a black tank top, a black sweater, and I pack a really warm sweater. I have the most boring travel outfit ever. My number,
chic.
Well, it's not. It just doesn't get dirty, right? It doesn't get dirty. I tend not to bring a coat if I'm going someplace warm because it's super bulky. And the number one packing advice is set out the minimal amount that you need, and then only take 2/3 of that. I'm a big believer in bringing stuff home. And you can't bring stuff home if you've packed your suitcase, right?
That's profound.
Yeah, she just steers it back. I love it.
What did I bring it back to?
Profound.
You're hired.
Yeah, she is. I love her. Yeah, it's like Coco Chanel said, get dressed and then take one thing off. It's totally applicable in packing as well. Who knew? I have a way, I don't mean to officially plug anything, because I'm not officially plugging this in O.N.S. Do you guys make luggage?
No.
Good, okay, I'm gonna say perfect. So Away Luggage has really great luggage that I'm obsessed with, so I travel with it, and it's got like the plug and the charger, and then it's like got all these things where I can put things.
Removable battery.
The removable battery is major. It's a game changer.
It's so big.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
So there's the new FAA regulation. You have to have a removable battery.
Oh yeah. I got in an argument one day with the flight attendant.
If you fly private, it's not a problem.
Wow, Zach
Like Lisle.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thanks for blowing up my spot. I do not travel private, by the way. Commercial. I wear a tracksuit. I'm a big fan of. I'm super comfortable. I can't. I'm already uncomfortable, and then there's like the recycled air, and then there's like the people, and then there's like I'm 250 pounds. It's like I'm like in the next person's seat. So I usually wear sweats and something, but I actually I always plan my outfit if I'm going somewhere like warm. I plan my outfit to change in the airport because because there's always like an hour, especially if you're going somewhere that's like Cuba or Nicaragua or something. There's always like an hour or 2 hours before you get off the plane to get to what your destination is. So I travel comfortable, but then I always have like a backup ready in my backpack.
He just whips off the track.
Yeah. They're always rip away.
They're
yes.
tearaways, yeah.
They're always Adidas Snap.
You mean O.N.S. now? Molly?
I'm with you on the away bag. I can't go without it. But for the girls, it's not enough space, so I always pack a gigantic duffel, stuff it on top of the away bag, and people don't mind. The TSA doesn't get mad, and you can bring everything plus, the essentials, and then add more with this kind of method.
You just gotta sweet talk them, I've learned. It's like,
Yeah, like it will all fit.
you tell them you're late and you
As
smile.
soon as you walk up.
Yeah. It's life hacks.
And as far as clothes and dressing, I think, you dress nice because either you have a change of clothes or you hate to show up somewhere and be stuck in your tracksuit for the whole day, or your workout clothes or your comfortable clothes. So for me, I like to, maybe try and dress up a little bit or be ready for what could come when you get off the plane.
I love like a good jegging, if you will. There's nothing better than like a jean with a little elastic in it.
Yes,
if you're on a
agreed.
flight. So that's usually like my go-to, like a dark jegging. And then like
O.N.S. sells that.
Yes.
yes,
2% stretch.
That's right.
exactly. And then a hoodie. And usually like a leather jacket, because it's always like heavy enough but also light enough to add another layer. And then Roan also makes these like amazing like little laundry bags that like help your clothes like dry, especially if you like have workout gear. So I love those, and those are great in the city as well.
Very cool.
I'm all about the athleisure and black, so it'll be like black leggings, probably like a couple layers, like with a leather jacket and some Stan Smiths or something, just very random. But whatever bag I'm carrying on the plane with me, like usually my backpack, I always have an extra change of clothes because I've dealt with the lost luggage before.
Right, I was gonna ask if
That's
anybody's
no
ever-
fun.
Okay.
So I've learned my lesson when I was like 16 to always like pack something in my bag with me. And yeah, simple but practical.
Very good. Also, if anybody wants to share how they fell into being able to travel for a living, I know you deal in hospitality, but if somebody, maybe their story of how they fell into it, because I think you're all very lucky to be able to do that, get paid for it. That's a rarity. So maybe kind of your Cinderella story.
I was working for SoulCycle and met one of the instructors who owned this company called Serve Yoga Beer, and he mentioned it in class, and I was just like, man, that sounds really cool. Like,
The ideal
what is
combo.
this? Yeah, like, I need this in my life. So I went on a couple like local trips because we do some things like hiking for a day. So that was like my first trip with them, and then just got to know them more, what they were needing. They were growing. Started kind of interning and just like helping out when needed. And then like a full-time position opened up, so fell into that, and then here I am. It's great.
Welcome.
I don't really get to travel as much as I'd like to for work, but I deal with people who travel for work a lot, and I just always appreciate whenever people reach out, influencers or brands or anything like that, and would like to come and stay at our hotel, that they have like a very concise message and know their brand and know what they have to offer, and it's always a pleasure to work with someone when they can let you know what they can offer your brand and how they can be beneficial to you as well.
So I'll tell my partner Ben's story, and he launched a hotel life 5 years ago as an answer to the question he was getting every day, which he kind of dragged me in on this very soon thereafter, but where should I stay when I'm traveling? And, you know, we both felt like we kind of knew what was, at the time, like a cool and different offering when there weren't many sites telling that story or telling you where to stay that is a bit off the beaten track or, appeals to the creative traveler. So we
Not on Expedia or whatever.
Yeah, not an Expedia. So that's kind of how we fell into hotel life and how it's grown.
Ben is also, what is his title at Edition? Something.
He has such a beautiful title. It's like
Yeah.
Chief.
It's like Chief Vibe,
Yeah,
whatever,
it's truly, it's like
Really cool guy.
yeah, Chief Creative Viber.
Yeah,
Something like that.
something really awesome.
And it really describes him very well.
Really cool dude. Live.
I want a title, Chief Creative
I think
Viber.
you could just make it.
I should talk to my partner. Yeah, I could actually. My title is Chief Creative Viber of The Metric. No, I started traveling. I started a brand called SDK back in 2006. So I started traveling when they started expanding. So I did New York, LA, Miami, Vegas, blah, 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 blah. And then I just fell in love. I got the travel bug because I was on the plane once every week. And now I travel because I partner either with brands or like for my own stuff. But I manifested a life, and this is a serious statement. I manifested a life to do what I enjoy doing, right? And I was like, I only want a career that I want, that I'm able to do this with, so it was a career choice for me.
You're like everybody's hero. I invented my job. I started a business. I don't know what I was thinking, but I started a business, and we have found an audience that likes the way that we talk about travel, that feels like it's how they want to hear about travel. It's not always easy. Can we just sort of pause for 1 second and say, it's like the glamorous life. I'm a blogger. I just travel all around the world. Can you please put me up for the night show? I'll put you on my blog.
And I feel like you kind of like parachute into these amazing
Really?
experiences, and
Really?
you come back, you're kind of like, what just happened?
I mean, yeah. So anyway, it depends which end of travel you're on. If you're lucky enough to have a job wherein you're traveling a ton and you love to travel, that's terrific gravy train, right? That's super terrific gravy train. If you are funding your own, I'm going to be a digital nomad and live my life, it's kind of a job to have a job then. So.
What gave you that push initially to just say, I'm going to do it?
Oh my God, it was a pig-headed case of if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Amazing.
Amazing and also pig-headed.
It turned out very well for you.
Well, no, but also it's like, there were all of the, on the one end, there were the TripAdvisors and the Hotels.com and the Booking.coms, and it's like, yay, it's everything. On the other end, it was, Jessie Blogger, and it's like just one person. It's like, okay, so where's that middle, digital native, journalistically credible, really trustworthy thing that I can just go to? And you know how at the end of a trip, you can go someplace, and at the end of the trip, you're like, oh, this is what I really needed to know. Like, on the last day, the stuff that you need to know. We set out, we're like, okay, we're just gonna give you the stuff you need to know on the last day. Not that, because that's homework. We're just gonna give you this much stuff and focus on what's special. And seriously, it was a case of like, well, one day I'm gonna wanna go to Tokyo. It's gonna be exhausting to go to Tokyo and figure it out. So I kind of launched Fathom so that when I finally do go to Tokyo, Fathom will just tell me what to do and I don't have to work that hard when I go to Tokyo.
Reverse engineering, I love it.
Kind of.
So I want to turn it over to you guys for 2 or 3 questions. If anybody wants to dive in first. There you go. Great question. I think the hospitality guru that's you? Eric, Lisle Richards of the Metric.
Oh my God, Eric is my business partner. He just called me my business partner.
Eric.
I hate my business partner. I'm kidding, I love him. We're married. He's not gay. I'm gay. We're not actually married.
All right.
Moving on. Food. It was a recommendation. I was staying at the Okawa Hotel in Tokyo. It's just no longer there, but and we asked the concierge again. It goes back to just ask the people that are working there. And I said I want like a really like special experience, and it was like a 30-course omakase moment, and it was like. And it was, I firmly believe in like spending $30 when you travel on food. Like I firmly believe it, and that's what I say. Go look at the restaurant, see if it vibes, right? Like if you feel good walking in there. If it don't feel good, don't fucking walk in. But this one, you asked what an incredible experience was, and sometimes it's totally worth it, especially when you travel to spend the money on food. And it was an incredible experience, incredibly expensive, but it was incredible. It was like in an office building, and it was 10 floors up, and it was like, I walked in, we were the only customers there, we sat there, and the guy made us lunch, or early dinner, and it was incredible. So, but it was one of those circumstances where it was like, if I'm in Tokyo for 2 days, where do I have to go? Where will I talk about for the rest of my life? So that was it.
I feel like Tokyo is one of those places you kind of have to like break through the concierge, which sounds awful and weird.
It's really
but, like,
difficult just because
they want to tell you like
culturally,
yeah.
and and they also have an idea of what Americans want, right? Which is like an Americanized version of what Tokyo or Japan is, right? Which is actually not what Japan is.
Exactly. That's my point. Anybody else? Food experiences that you really loved.
I did an internship in college with the Four Seasons in Langkawi, Malaysia, and one of my best friends, Julia, she was from Malaysia. She took me to this amazing restaurant. All the food there is just absolutely incredible. But all the restaurants are basically open air because, it's 85 degrees, 365. And, you're eating with your hands, some of the most fresh fish I've ever had. Just incredible, super cheap, super locals only, but just an amazing experience.
Anybody else with a question? In the back here.
Travel tends to, I guess my takeaway from everyone, it tends to like open your eyes. You view the world differently. You take things in. You unplug. How have you, I guess, taken those affectations and applied them to your life home?
Big question. I love it.
I don't think you can be a closed-minded person if you're traveling. If you get up and if you go to foreign places, like you can't be a closed. No person who travels thinks a border wall is a good idea, right? And so I've sort of taken this mission. It's like, okay, this is what I do every day as I try to put this message out into the world and I try to sort of share this. But it's also, you wake up every day and you're like, am I going to be an asshole or am I going to be nice today? And it kind of helps to inform and it helps to reset your compass, if you will. And traveling is one of the things I love about traveling is coming back home, because it gives me a new perspective on everything, to like how I should organize my closet, to how I should be towards people, to like where I should be eating dinner, right? And so if you really are open-minded and if you're really accepting to the things that are happening to you when you're traveling, it's almost like you don't need to be aware of how is it changing you, it just does.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just not going at things with expectations. Because I think if you have an expectation of something, especially if it's negative, that's gonna come into your life. So if you go at things with a positive outlook and just are open to these experiences, that's gonna translate when you come home as well, like going off what you were saying. Absolutely.
And I think travel really creates a thirst to see and do new things and experience more. So when you come home, you're more prone to go out and break out of your usual routine and go try new places that are a bit out of your comfort zone.
And I also, same idea, traveling and then also Instagram, I will say, like, drives me to do more visually enticing things and kind of go to places that I haven't been before and break out from the norm. And I think kind of one of the arguments for Instagram, other than that it distracts us a lot. But it makes me do things. It makes me like bring friends to places that we would never go before, or like, you know, go to the gallery that we saw in somebody else's photo and kind of live in that way. Anyways, right here.
So I feel like a lot of people have this idea that to go somewhere off season means maybe experiencing it not in the right way or having a lesser experience. And in my opinion, in my work and in my personal travels, when I find myself somewhere off season, sometimes it's the best trip that I've had because there are less tourists and you get more of like a locals only experience, and it just feels a little more natural. So I guess I'm wondering with you guys, what are the best places you've been off season where you actually find that it's a little more authentic?
Why'd you give me that?
I feel like you've got a really good spot for this one.
Right. You don't have to juggle the mic.
No.
I don't travel off season.
I don't. Yeah, I think that's a crazy statement what you just said. Retract that right now. No, the reason for going on season is literally seasonality, which is weather, right? So if it's a weather contingent place, that's why you would go somewhere on season. I find that the best places like off season are like cities, right? Where you can go, and it doesn't matter if you're in Paris in August, which is off season, right? Rather than like springtime, which is on season, and it's just as beautiful and just as incredible. So for me, like I make a point to travel, you're 100% correct, to like cities like off season. So it's not like imagine New York in August. It's a fucking terrible place to be, right? So like I would prefer to be off season somewhere as well. So and you also get to it's just less packed and it's less locals are also like less on guard when it comes to tourists. So you do get a more open reception when it comes to that type of thing.
The Amalfi Coast at the end of October.
Boom. You had the same answer, Molly?
You're swimming, it's beautiful, the tomatoes are just as good as they can get. You're getting the end of the summer and the pumpkins, oh my God, the squash ravioli, it's insane. So the Amalfi Coast is one of the most beautiful places on earth. I go at least once a year, and I also go in July. You couldn't pay me to go in August. I don't think you should ever go to Italy in August, ever. If you take nothing, and don't ever do that, because the country basically shuts down. The country
Should we go to
shuts
Italy
down.
in August?
No, please. I also I've been to Paris over New Year's Eve somehow randomly, maybe 4 times. Empty city, but so it means like I got the Louvre to myself. It's really super nice. I love New York City over Thanksgiving week. Yes.
Yes.
Everybody knows it, right? It's the nicest time to be in our city. Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. And what a great place to finish. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, O.N.S. Guys did really.
Hi, thank you all for joining us. Thanks to all of you guys. That was amazing. I'm like going to JFK right now in a car if anyone would like to hop in. We're just going to go see what happens. There are more drinks and some snacks and like dessert things in the back. So go grab another drink, get a snack, get to know some people and like plan a fun group trip together. Yeah.